the second coming of Jesus. We feel like he's shown us some things, and we really want to share them with you just so that you can be ready too. So Robin, do you want to share some of the things that you had on your heart?
Yeah, initially I had some warning dreams, letting me know that I was getting ready to enter a really fiery trial. And January 2007, I was diagnosed with stage 3, very aggressive form of inductal carcinoma, which is a form of breast cancer. And in the midst of this battle, I really wanted to have one of these Rhema words, an ever-present word, with the Lord speaking and letting me know, daughter, thou art healed. I know that God's the same yesterday, today, and forever, and I know that he does miracles, and I really wanted one. In the midst of this battle, I didn't hear that, but while getting up out of my bed one morning, while taking the chemotherapy treatments, as bald as a baby, I put my foot on the floor as I was leaving bed, and I heard as clear as day something called Rosh Hashanah. And as soon as I heard that, I immediately wrote it down in a little journal that I had there beside my bed. And a couple days later, I asked a friend of mine, I said, have you ever heard of something called Rosh Hashanah? And he's like, yeah, I think that's one of those Jewish feasts. After speaking with another friend of mine, she went ahead and she gave me a book that was actually called Rosh Hashanah. I was able to actually study this feast out. And I see that it is very significant of like a Jewish wedding. And so in the process of this, I met a good friend of mine here, Melissa, and the Lord has shown her some really awesome things that I said, boy, you need to just really share this, because obviously the reason why we're sharing this is the time is short. And he said that he's going to pour out his spirit upon all flesh, and that he was going to send dreams and visions. And so we'd like to share these things with you in the hopes that, that you can receive the blood of the Passover lamb, because Rosh Hashanah is the 5th feast. However, 4 feasts have already been fulfilled. 3 of the first, which is Passover. Jesus is the Passover lamb. And as the high priest was slaughtering the lamb, our lamb was actually dying on the cross. And if you remember what Abraham told his son as he was getting ready to sacrifice him, he said, God himself will provide that lamb. Well, he did. And Jesus was literally crucified, just as Isaiah spoke of. And the very next feast, right after Passover, is called unleavened bread. And we know that leaven is it represents sin. And we know that Jesus lived a completely sinless life. The very next festival after that is called the Festival of First Fruits. And first fruits is when Jesus was raised from the dead, and he truly is seated at the right hand of the Father. He is our high priest. He sets the blood upon the mercy seat on our behalf, and so your goodness could never be good enough, not on your best day. But I highly recommend that you just reach out to him and that you receive the pardon that was paid, the price that was paid for you. And go ahead, Melissa. I'd like you to share, what the Lord's shown you.
Okay. Like Robin was saying, okay, those 7 feasts are very, very important to understand. And in the Church of the West, most of us were not taught about the Jewish feasts of the Lord. So I, first of all, just want to encourage you to take a little bit of time. Mark Biltz has some great teachings out there on YouTube. I encourage you to just listen. It's maybe 10 minutes. You can get a pretty good understanding of those 4 feasts that were fulfilled in the spring on Jesus' first coming, and then the 3 feasts that are to be fulfilled in the fall. And the next feast, of course, is like Robin said, the 5th feast, and that is Rosh Hashanah. And it symbolizes the wedding feast of the Lamb. It symbolizes the rapture of the church. So I just wanted to share a couple dreams the Lord has given me over the past 15 months or so that I feel he's showing us a timeline of how close it is. The first dream I had was in December of 2009. And in that dream, I was getting ready to marry a Jewish man. And I believe that was Jesus. And my mom was trying to convince me not to marry him. And so when I realized that without him I was going to be completely poor and penniless, I got frustrated with my mom and I said, you've never loved me. He really loves me and I'm going to marry him. So I went to the church and there was all the guests of the groom were already seated waiting. And the mother of the groom was standing there and she looked at me and asked me why I wasn't dressed yet. And I said, what time does the ceremony begin? And she said 5 o'clock. And I looked at my watch and it was 4:20. So at that point I set out to go find a wedding dress. I believe the 5 represents the 5th feast there. And so you can see, based on what time it was, how close back in December of 2009 we were. Then, just last February of 2011, I had another dream. And in that dream, I was actually pressing and neatly folding a wedding dress, a beautiful white wedding dress that I had just finished making. And in the Jewish culture, to neatly fold something means I'm coming back. And we know that after the rapture, the church will come back with Jesus. So the problem was, though, in that dream, the bride wasn't ready to get dressed. So I really believe that the Lord is showing us that the church is really not ready, even as close as we are. But then the next part of the dream, I was in a vehicle, and I was looking up in the sky, and it was really, really dark. And then as we kept driving, it got light again. Well, I started to wonder what time it was. And I looked at my watch, and it was just a little bit, like maybe 10 minutes before 5. And that was just back in February. So based on those 2 dreams, I really feel like the Lord is showing us how close we are to that fulfillment of the 5th feast. And then again, just a couple weeks ago, the Lord gave me another dream that I feel like He's showing us the rapture is just at hand. I was standing in the road, and I looked up in the sky, and it was covered with clouds. And there was just one opening in the clouds where the sun was coming through. And I said, Lord, are you taking me up? And then I looked down, and I saw my feet begin to come up off of the ground, and then I was swept up into the clouds. So I really feel it's urgent. I feel the Lord has shown not just us, but a lot of other people dreams and visions of what's coming. So we just encourage you, if you don't feel like you're ready, get ready, because Rosh Hashanah for 2011 is only 2 weeks away. It starts just September 28th at sundown, and it ends September 30th at sundown. So be ready.
Actually, it's a 2-day.
Okay.
It's 2 days, so there's like a 3-day window. No man knows the hour or the day. Well, there's actually 3 days according to everything circles around Jerusalem. Please, whatever you do, we've been grafted into that vine. Don't ever boast against the natural olive branches. They are the Jewish people. If you've done it not to one of the least of these, his brethren. That's actually referring to his kinsmen, the Jewish people. Please, bless them and you'll be blessed. And I just, want to just also suggest about the wisdom of the Holy Spirit. He said 2 will be lying in bed, 1 will be taken and the other left.
Right, yeah.
2 will be in the field, 1 will be taken and the other left. Even in the wisdom of the Holy Spirit, you could clearly see that when this happens, it's going to happen in the twinkling of an eye.
That's right.
So even though it's going to be night on one side of the earth, it's going to be obviously morning, possibly evening on, depending on where you are on the earth, it's going to happen instantly. And
at the
he
same
says,
time.
yeah.
Yes.
And he says, pray always that you're counted worthy to escape. If you're seeing this video and this has already happened, truly Jesus will be coming in the clouds of heaven. He's not in the desert.
Right.
Don't receive any of that.
That's right.
Any of that there's this other Jesus, and,
Right.
and he's having Christian, saying that he did not die.
That's it.
Don't even receive that. That is a lie straight from the pit of hell.
Right.
And just know that we are coming back, and just truly prepare your heart, because he is awesome.
And there is time, and just remember, if you like Robin said, if you're watching this, if the rapture has taken place, understand that there is still hope. There are going to be many people who get saved during the tribulation. I know there's a lot of teachings out there that say once the rapture happens, that's it, but that's a lie straight from hell. In Revelation, you'll find where when John was being shown some things, he saw the souls that were underneath the altar, and they were crying out for justice. And he asked who they were, and the angel told him, these are those who have come out of the great tribulation. Okay, so understand, it is not too late. I can't emphasize that enough. If you didn't make a decision before the rapture, you still have time. Please choose Jesus.
Yes.
Okay.
He sets before you life and death.
Yes.
He says,